Hello, hello, you big fantastic rock, you and all those who reside up on it. I am King RP, host of Brothers of Many Words. I am life, I am energy, I am the possibility of what comes next. Moving with purpose, speaking with power, and becoming more every day.
What's up? What's up? I am King Mackie, better known as Haru the Great. Call me necessary.
Right on. I'm King Christopher. I'm here to recognize truth, evaluate the path, leverage discipline, and implement change through action.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's good to
King,
be
thanks
on
for
today.
that. Absolutely. Go ahead. You're right, you're right. It is good to be on today, man.
Yeah,
A
it
little
is.
tired
Yeah,
today,
it
but we're
is.
gonna we're gonna rock this thing. It's always great information every single time. I am fascinated by what I read and
Yes.
what I come across
Yeah.
and how it makes me feel, especially when we reflect back on civilization so long ago and to where we are now. It's it surely is a different contrast.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah. I do agree.
100%.
Yeah, I do agree. Yeah, I do agree. It definitely throws that narrative that Africa was just a wasteland and didn't provide
Oh,
anything for the world today. And these books we're reading have definitely proved a major point of how they've contributed to everything. I mean, how they brought everything,
Everything.
everything.
put that affirmation.
All right, our affirmation for Brother Meaning Words is: we stand together as brothers, united in purpose and grounded in truth. Excuse me, grounded in respect. We move with love, speak with clarity, and we carry peace. No ego, no division, only growth. Each voice matters. Together we build something greater. We are aligned. We are ready. Peace in our energy, power in our unity, and purpose in our message. It is done.
It is
It
done.
is done. Absolutely. We want to welcome those to Sunday Book Club, powered by Brothers of Many Words. This is a weekly space for meaningful reading, honest conversation, cultural insight, personal growth, and deeper understanding. Each book becomes a doorway into wisdom, history, identity, discipline, purpose, and transformation. This year's topic is the origins of religion, a subject that is not only historical but deeply powerful, passionate, and alive with meaning. The book we are discussing currently is African Glory by author J.C. DeGraff Johnson. It is a fantastic book. Fantastic book. Right now, I'm on the hit us with some words of inspiration. Hardship has a way of forcing the soul to look beyond survival and ask what kind of person it is becoming for the future. Real life teaches that what is fundamental is not comfort, but endurance, clarity, and the courage to evolve through pain. A futuristic life is not built only with technology or ambition, but with inner strength shaped by trials. The deeper you search yourself in difficult seasons, the more prepared you become to walk forward with wisdom, purpose, and vision. Let those words sink with you today and think about them. Think about them.
Yep. Yes.
Good words.
Yes.
Good words, man.
Yeah, absolutely, bro.
Thank you, King.
How's everybody doing today?
Loving life.
Hey, I'm always living life like Brother Christopher says, King Christopher says. But sometimes you kind of moving through that mud or quicksand sometimes, but that
Yes,
don't stop you. You just keep
absolutely.
moving.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What's the weather like up there?
It's raining.
Sunshine and rain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
it's raining. Which
We got the
in
rain.
some cases is good. It keeps the crowd indoors. So it's but
That's
I got an amazing opportunity, brother King Nick and we do security for Missouri Broadcast Association, which is pretty much any broadcaster, podcaster, anchor, any type of TV reality, or I say anchorman or news, meteorologist, anything like that comes to this award ceremony and receives awards throughout the state of Missouri. So you meet some really important people and some really informative people, so I made some connections, and so I look to discuss that with you guys a little bit later on people who might be
cool.
interested, give us some little feedback or give us some information on how we can progress ourselves.
Right
Awesome
on.
sauce.
That's awesome,
Big
brother.
time, brother.
Yes, yes.
Big time, King. Big time. All right, let's get into it. Last Sunday, African Glory, chapters 8 through 10. Just to give you a little bit of a recap, Chapter 8 had to do with the rise of African empires. The second, we discussed the second, the Arab invasion. Um, the first one a little bit, the great writers of that time. Let's see, the rise of the Ghana Empire. Chapter 9 was the Mali and Songhai empires. The Mali Empire was Sandiata Gita and Mansa Musa, Mansa's pilgrimage to Mecca. And chapter 10 was the Songhai Empire, Sona Ali, Askia the Great. And those were pretty much what those chapters were about. So today's podcast, we will be covering chapters 8 through 10. 11, 11 through 13 is where we're starting. 11 through 13 today. Okay, chapter 11. Let's get right into it. The end of West African empires is how that starts off. So right off the bat, you see you have Ishmael, who survived his father Askia the Great, and then you had Askia Ishak the First, who both were great leaders at that time. And it was during that second paragraph there. It was during Askia Ishak's reign that the Sultan of Morocco wanted to take the salt mines of Taghaza. He wanted a piece of the pie because, as we had discussed, the resources and the spices was just as valuable as the gold and all that stuff too. It was very possible. He wanted a piece of that pie. And he he didn't ask. He told them. Well, he asked them politely in a polite way that he wanted those mines. He wanted those mines to be given to him. And Askia Ashak felt insulted by that. Insulted. And so they went to war behind that. They went to war behind that. What your kings get?
Well, I wanted to bring up. I mean, we didn't really go last week. We didn't go over too much of the Songhai Empire. And so I just want to briefly read a little biography about Asagi the Great so we kind of have an understanding going forward of what kind of happened and what he did for the Songhai Empire and how it got so big.
Sure.
So Askia the Great, also known as Askia Muhammad the First, was one of the greatest rulers of the Songhai Empire in West Africa. He came to power after the reign of Suna Ali and helped turn the Songhai into a powerful, organized, and wealthy empire. His key achievements, Asagi the Great expanded the Songhai Empire and made it one of the largest empires in African history. He also strengthened government by organizing provinces, officials, taxes, courts, administration. And he also supported Islam, education, scholarship, especially in the cities like in Timbuktu. And he had a famous pilgrimage also to Mecca, which increased Songhai's reputation in the Muslim world. He definitely made it Songhai a major center of trade for learning and political power. And that's another reason why we see Morocco, the other side of Islam, wanting to come over to the Song Empire because of their wealth and what they had going on over there.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that.
One thing, let's get into that last paragraph there. You get Askia Dua, I believe that's how you say his name.
Yes.
One thing that I'm coming to realize is that when these kings or these individuals come into power, it isn't just about the financial side of it, but for them making their rulership meaningful. It's always that wanting to go to war. That wanting to go to war to expand their kingdoms. It's not just as he was Dual picked the fight with the Masi and the Fulani, and it just is, that seems to be an integral theme into their rulership, as the imprint that they want to leave going through.
Yeah, he was bold.
Yes.
Yeah, or he thought he was bold. I don't know.
Well, yeah, because he sent
what he sent? 15? 24. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, 24 to take on what was it? A couple of hundred of his, 400 men. He sent 24, and
Yes.
they did well. Most of them got killed, but the ruler of the other empire, sent them back. And it's like there's no need to waste such valuable men.
Right.
And, that's just wild, man. But it also highlights too for me as well, from being in the military, how it seems to me as and I can't. I'm just speaking because I'm not there. That the thought of the loss of life is just they want to expand their empires, and he sends 24 guys to take on 400. That's
24.
insane.
Yes.
Insane.
Yes.
I thought that was wild.
I did too.
And not just that, they were like, "He's the king. You have to go."
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah, they did.
They did.
Yeah, I thought he miscounted. Y'all. I thought maybe.
No, man, only 24 dudes. He thought his guys were that good.
Yes, he did.
Thought they were that good. Can you imagine rolling up on that and looking and just seeing all that, and you can't go back. You got to go fight.
But to add on to that, when he sent those 24 horsemen to Katsina, the ruler Katsina didn't kill all of them.
No, he didn't.
He actually, I think he killed 15 of them, captured 9.
Yep.
And then the 9 he captured, I think in the book, he kind of apologizes to him for his ruler sending him to their death because they were such great warriors.
Right.
Like even he was confused why he was wasting his men like that.
Right. Yeah. I think he even made a statement of saying men of such incomparable valor do not deserve to die.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like the insight into that. Each empire that we cover, that we've done thus far, it always seems to be that thirst for battle. Always that thirst for battle.
Mm-hmm.
Even back in Egyptian times as well. There's always the expansion of the kingdom and wanting more and more and more at the cost of lives, which is always important. Okay, so moving. We're already on page 111. 111. So on the second paragraph, it speaks of because Ashek the Rain had attacked. Was it Drya? And so on the other page, they got their revenge back. The people of Morocco, and killed the governor of the Songhai governor of Taghaza, the salt mines, and they took those salt mines.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Well, I think they had they actually opened up a new mine. They made a deal, a peace treaty.
Yes.
After they took over Taghazi and killed the governor, yeah. But they made a peace treaty and opened up a new mine in Taghaza. And peace between the Songhai and the Moroccos lasted for 21 years just because of that one mine. But that was kind of like the last straw too. That was the last of the peace.
Mm-hmm. And then the recruiting process. We're going down to the bottom of the page where they talk about the recruiting process of the Tangerers of 17,000 men, but the Europeans were recruited from several countries as Portuguese, Germany, Italian, several hundred popular troops under the command of Englishmen. So I thought that was something too, that it wasn't just, Moroccans or Africans in general, or Arabs, that you had some Europeans from all over the countries.
Well, when you think about the Europeans, he didn't really talk about what the background of those Europeans were too much in the book. But if they're a lot of them are Portuguese, so they have to have a Christian background. And I thought it was interesting that a Muslim ruler was using Christians as their army.
I did too.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I did too.
Yes.
But wasn't that from? Go ahead.
No, go ahead, bro. What you gonna say?
But wasn't that from Queen Elizabeth? Didn't she send?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought so.
I was gonna get into that. Yes, because you go to I believe it's the 34th paragraph down. So I'm gonna read that. Early in 1578, Sultan Muhammad the 11th, sometimes called the Black Sultan because of his color, appealed to Dom Sebastian, King of Portugal, to help him recover the throne, which his uncle Abdul Malik had usurped. And so you're right. The fact that so Dom Sebastian is Portugal, the Europeans, if you will. And so, yes, they took that. And so Europe piggybacked up on that, because listen, the Moors had ran them up out of Africa. So they didn't really have a shot up in there. So this was like a little way to get a foothold, because he promised him that he would get them a permanent foothold on the Moroccan coast. So they were like, yes, we want to get up in there. Because the Moors is like, you're not coming with us. So this was one way for them to get in there.
Right.
You think
So
Queen
that was,
Elizabeth was just thinking of, since she knew that the Moroccan Empire was so powerful that she's wanted to be friends with them,
Mm-hmm.
or she was wanting to get the resources from Africa?
Both.
so yes, yes.
Both.
We'll go, and that's on page 112. And you're
Mm-hmm.
right, because so this is what I took out of that. So at that same time, England, uh, after they defeated, let's see, that those 17,000 men, the Europeans, and those guys, the ones who were trying to take over Morocco, they were destroyed by the Moroccans themselves. And so both Sultan Muhammad on the top page, the top second paragraph on page 112, and Dom Sebastian were both killed. Muhammad
Mm-hmm.
the 11th was flayed and his body stuffed and paraded
Mm-hmm.
throughout the Principal of Morocco. I mean,
Ain't that
flayed and
something?
stuffed. That is
Flayed.
insane.
Flake, yes. Oh
Flayed.
wow, really?
I was like,
Man,
them,
they put in some work to make that.
shoot. And so now they had the younger brother of Abdul Malik.
Right.
And so they seen how powerful Morocco was. So people from all the surrounding areas were sending him gifts, da 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 da
Mm-hmm.
da. And so
Right.
yes, the Queen Elizabeth. So at that time, so they were playing. Well, no, she wasn't. So secretly, she was sending the Sultan of Morocco, the young El Mashur, timber and stuff for shipbuilding. But here was the thing
Mm-hmm.
about that I took from that. So at the same time, England was battling Spain. They were battling Spain for sea supremacy at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so she didn't want to, she didn't want to direct, the Sultan to aid her in Spain, because again, they seen what they just did. And so she was secretly trying to get on his
Negotiate.
side,
Uh-huh.
so she was
Yep.
sending him messages secretly. And
Right.
so if you go on to page 113, when El Mansur decided, what can we do again? His soldiers were not doing anything, and he wanted to pick a fight. And so it was
Mm-hmm.
like, let's go attack the Songhai Empire. And so
Right.
from that, um,
And I thought that was interesting that he was
yes,
rewarding his soldiers with another war.
Mm-hmm.
And the author wrote it like the soldiers wanted it.
I believe.
Like
Oh,
that's
yes.
what they wanted. That's what it
That's
felt
what they
like.
live for. Yeah, that's what they
that's
live
what
for.
they live for.
Yeah.
And it
It's
wasn't just
different
like,
now.
between Morocco and the Songhai Empire, there was a huge desert. And so they
Oh
gave him
yes.
opposition, like, we don't want to do that. But he finally got his way, and so they prepared and built, not built, but they just prepared for it to take that journey. And of course, Queen Elizabeth, offered some of her men, so she
Yeah.
found a way to get in.
And
Yeah.
she was doing this early. She
Yes.
did this before Muhammad the 11th had even passed and Don Sebastian. She was doing this in like 1977, and they were still alive.
Right.
So
Right.
again, that's why it was secretly.
Yes.
Most of them waited till Sebastian and Muhammad the 11th had passed, and now we want to become, because we have a new ruler coming. But she was doing it prior to that. I thought that was important to note.
Sneaky. But and that just highlights how it
Strategic.
It
might be strategic.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And those things go on all the time. They go
All
on
the
all the
time.
time, even to this day. I mean, it's wild. You just never know.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so on, I know I'm moving quick here, Kings, but on 113, it goes into, so they sent, Queen Elizabeth sent to the sea. So what's of significance too, because there was, of course, so I'm on that the third paragraph there. I'm just going to read that thing. On June 23rd, on page 113, on June 23rd, 1590, we find the Sultan El Mansur of Morocco writing to Queen Elizabeth of England, regretting his inability to deal promptly with certain communications received from the English Queen, since he was very busy putting his finishing touches to his West African campaign. Europeans who were relieved at the idea of Morocco diverting her military might from Europe and trying it against West Africa enlisted freely in the Moroccan army. There was, of course, a bait, the possibility of getting some gold. Of the first contingent of 4,000 men of the fighting line, only 1,500 were Moroccans. The rest were Europeans. Their artillery men were Europeans, mostly Englishmen. The cannonballs and other munitions had largely been supplied by Queen Elizabeth of England. So ready were Europeans to enlist in this Moroccan army that the Spanish became its official language. Even the command of the army went to a Spanish eunuch named Jadar Pasha.
Yeah, that's wild. That's just wild by itself.
Yes, it is.
Almost don't even make sense. It
No.
almost don't make sense.
Unless they were just the Europeans were just that greedy, hungry for gold.
I mean, it makes sense.
When
I mean,
what
it
other
makes
reason would they want to go fight?
Well, listen, Mansa Musa put it on a spotlight for the world.
Yes, he did.
He put it on a spotlight for the world. That pilgrimage to Mecca was epic.
Right.
They all got to see the wealth that was there in this overabundance, if you will. So everybody wanted a piece of that pie, man. Everybody.
Right.
And when you look at it like in the big picture, kind of zoom out and just look at everybody together, the whole campaign was about wealth.
It was.
I mean, because El Mansour, Morocco was Islam. So was Songhai Empire. They were both Islamic countries, empires.
Yeah.
And El Mansour just wanted Songhai's riches.
That's it.
That's all that was about.
That's it.
And then he enlisted more people that wanted riches too.
That's it. Yes. You know, so we had covered that in the prior chapter of how they were all intermarrying one another, and they were just basically killing one another. But you're right. That it was all for the wealth.
Right. That's all it was about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he wasted a lot of men traveling over the Sahara Desert just to get there.
Yes, he did. Didn't it take him like 2 or 3 years to prepare for it? I mean, it was like unreal.
And lost a third of the army.
A third of the army just getting there.
And it was the eunuchs, so these guys that don't have any male members is the one leading these armies.
That's correct. That's correct. Yep. And the Jadar Pasha, so those played a significant. They did play a significant role throughout the history when they got there.
To me, that's just wild having a eunuch lead an army, like a guy that has no desire for, the basic thing that most men want, right? And why most men do the things they do. Right. And this guy's leading an army.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with
you. There's something to that, because obviously, too. Well, I say obviously, it seems that he was of some sound of some great value, because to lead those men over there, and again, when they got there, it was just succession after succession of that was an important spot. The Jadar Pasha, that was an important spot. So it's just like, you're right, not to have that desire, but there was something there.
Yeah, and Jada Pasha wasn't even Moroccan. He was extremely loyal for years, across distances, great distances.
Yep,
that's right.
I just thought that was wild. Like, what had been going on in their head to be loyal to a king of another country?
Right. Yeah. But like you said, wealth. I mean, wealth was leading.
Wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll move on to page 114. 114.
I thought this was just wild.
Come on.
With no guns. No guns.
No guns.
I mean, it ain't even the concept of don't bring a knife to a gunfight. This is bringing nothing to a gunfight.
Well, I don't even think the Songhai Empire even knew about guns. I don't even think they had the information about.
No,
guns.
They didn't. They didn't. They didn't.
So when they fought that battle, that was an entirely new thing for them.
But you would think it would be some type of something that you would need to know. Do you know what I mean? You need to know your enemies and what they have, and so I'm a little confused on that too. I mean, I get it. On not.
I think they were prideful.
Okay.
They didn't think anyone could touch them.
Right. Yeah. Because I feel you on
that. On those page 114, those two paragraphs, the second and third. I'm going to read the first one.
Okay.
Yeah. A little bit of insight. So, the Songhai Council of War failed to appreciate the full gravity of the situation. Askia Ishak's instructions were either trifled with or regarded as the instructions of one who was panic-stricken. His orders for filling in the wells on the northern route fell into the hands of Jadar Pasha. On February 8, 1591, Jadar Pasha halted his army on the left bank of the river Niger at an obscure village called Karabara, where Jadar Pasha gave a banquet. After a short pause, the invading army moved to Gayo. 50 miles from Gayo, a quickly raised Songhai army of 18,000 cavalrymen, 18,000, and 9,700 infantrymen, led by Askia Ashak II, prepared to give battle. The Songhai army had no guns. Even though firearms had been introduced to Bornu sometime earlier, the Songhai soldiers had no knowledge of their use. Jadar Pasha's forces, however, were well equipped with firearms, including cannons. Does anybody want to read that second paragraph? Here we keep going.
I'll read it.
Go ahead.
The two armies approached each other. Jarad Pasha made an effort to get Aska Ishka II to surrender without a battle, but this only served to raise the spirit of Ishka, who regarded the gesture as a sign of weakness. The issue was soon joined. The first fighting column of the Songhai army made its charge. It consists of cattle, and they were intended to spread confusion into the ranks of Jarad Pasha's forces. Jarad merely ordered his men to open their ranks and allow the cattle to pass through, which was done without anybody being hurt. Then the two opposing armies really met. Most of the Shanghai forces were indisciplined, but they were a few highly disciplined soldiers among them, and those sought to inspire confidence in the rest by kneeling down and lashing their shins to their thighs so that they were unable to rise. And from that position, they fired their arrows until they were shot down by Jarad Pasha's guns. The invading troops, that is insane.
I didn't get that, but they just killing themselves.
Yeah,
they slashed their shins all the way up to their thighs so they couldn't stand up, and shooting bows and arrows at guns
until they got shot dead.
Until they got shot dead. Sent cattle.
That's discipline.
Cattle. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was just reading and imagining in my head like this big herd of cattle and this army over here. They're like,
what? I know. I thought the same thing.
We'll come back and get you later after the war. We'll be hungry.
I was gonna say, hey, Cap, that's supper.
Yep. Thank you.
But when that army was marching up to Songhai and got Jadab Pasha asking him to surrender. I mean, when you think about that, like the audacity a person has to have.
Right.
You're the one that's invading this empire. You came across the desert and you're here on my land just out of nowhere and telling me to surrender.
Right.
Like, if I was the emperor of Songhai, I'd be like, screw you, man. Let's go.
Right now. Yeah.
Jadab Pasha might have had, prior knowledge, of their capabilities, if you will. Probably knew they didn't have any guns and knew without that it was going to be a slaughter. I mean,
oh yes.
It was going to be.
But they didn't beat him.
True.
Not that battle.
No, not that battle.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't.
Battle. But that just gives a little bit of insight of what the thought process was. He was prideful when he got that. Like, no way, I'm not taking that. We're going to fight this thing.
Yeah.
Man, it's not funny. It's just amazing to get the mindset of what
it's the discipline, bro. It's that's disciplined. I'm sorry, that's loyal. You know what I mean? I mean, you just can't go wrong with that. I mean, the Middle East itself. When you think about the people in all the many wars and things that they have done, I mean, the people of the Middle East seem to be very loyal to what they believe. I mean, to a point, to modern times where you have, suicide bombers, you know what I mean, to what they believe that when they pass, they have 12 wives and this and that and all the gold and godship that they need. So belief is real.
Yeah, not to get upset. This thing with the war with Iran, it's no different. They are disciplined. They got thousands of years.
Thousands.
It's not just discipline. It's also that they take these people as children and they teach them as kids, and so these kids are brainwashed to believe it, so they will go kill themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
Brainwashed by a religion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
115. And then, that first paragraph highlights there how, before all of this, there was peace in these countries. Peace and prosperity had prevailed in the heart of African continent before Djab Pasha attacked. Then after that, it was anarchy, plundering, depredation. Timbuktu, Gayo, Djinni were sacked, pillaged, and burnt to the ground. To quell the people and break their spirit, the Moroccans filled in the wells and destroyed the cultivated fields.
Yeah, they even filled in the wells in the fields so the civilians couldn't survive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I mean that's mean.
Yeah, they went hardcore. So I'm gonna read that little insert right there. Therefore, the Sudanese, whom we have seen so full of energy, loses all initiative under the despotic military rod and the constant threats to his life, his family, and his possessions. Vast agglomerations of people dwindled into insignificant villages. Timbuktu, which had a population of over 200,000, dwindled into a village of 15,000 people. Even morale standards were relaxed in the midst of this universal distress. For the Niger states, the Arab colonization denoted the beginning of the end.
yeah.
Nothing good comes from war, gentlemen. Nothing good.
200,000 to 15,000 people.
Bruh. That's just like, when you think about Turtle Island and all the many Indian tribes who no longer exist anymore. Millions of people died. Millions. I mean, and then the ones that did survive were put on reservations, and then they slowly died. I mean, it's just history just seems to repeat itself. And once you learn a little bit of it, you might have the ability to prevent some things. But if you don't, it just continues to roll over.
And
because
go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
It just repeats itself as
Mm-hmm.
listen, we're on in a short journey into this, but it does. It's the same thing over and over and over.
Right.
It's all about wealth and power.
Yeah, and the strategies don't change. That's the thing about it. The strategies really don't change. They just kind of build off of, but they really don't change.
No.
Yeah. So on the rest of the page of 115, Askia Ashek, he was on the run. He was on the run for his life.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, and that goes on into page 116. And listen, Jadar Pasha did not stop. It's his thirst to finding him was immense. So, I mean, he could never stop. He was always on the run. Always on the run. I'm on page 116, King. 116.
Before I move on to page 16, I wanted to just mention, as Jada Pasha was just wiping out all these towns and cities, even though they were victorious, there was massive losses to that army.
Yes,
massive losses.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, they were victorious, but it wasn't like it was easy for them.
Right.
They experienced massive loss.
Yeah. Yeah, like they talk about the tropical diseases like malaria, yellow fever. We read in the last chapter the sleeping sickness.
And they lost a lot of their flies. If we go back, remember when the Songhai was first getting started, they lost their cattle, right? And they had to redo how they were doing things. And then when Jada Pasha's army got to that area, they lost a lot of their horses and stuff from the test fly.
Yeah, they sure did. Yep.
So, page 116. I'm just going to get to the paragraph. I'm just going to get into the middle section of it, and it has to do with Ashkia II. So he was on the run, for his life, and so he tried to reach Kebi near Lake Chad, but circumstances compelled him to place himself at the mercy of the Gurma, who had long hated Songhai rule, and he and his companions were all murdered. The ingratitude of the Songhai people to Askia Ishak II will go down in history as one of the worst acts of perfidy ever perpetrated by Africans. So even though he was on the run from his invaders, his own people killed him.
Yes.
He ain't safe nowhere.
No.
Safe
nowhere. Nowhere. Nope.
But that kind of makes you think about how did he really treat his people?
True.
That's a great point.
Yeah, that is a great point. Yeah.
That's a great point.
I mean, the kingdom could be wealthy, just like here in America. We have the government that's very wealthy, right?
Right.
But what about the rest of its subjects?
Yeah. Corporations. Yeah. Us, not so much.
Mm-mm.
Not in this economy right now. Not in this economy. I was surprised to see gas at $4 the other day. It's really been about $4.52 in most places, or between $4.19 and $4.52. But I seen it right at 400 the other day. I brought gas tanks. I brought the other car. I wanted to pour stuff in the trunk just so I can preserve the gas. I mean,
Yeah, but when you think about it, like compare all these because later when we get in a few chapters, we'll see how leaders of this area was, there was more than one leader in a year, like because they
yes,
just kept on going in and out.
right,
But you go back to think about Mansa Musa and his reign. Mansa Musa, I mean, it was he showed the world the wealth that he had, but he also, in my opinion, it seems that he was nice to his people,
right,
and he shared his wealth with his people, and that's most likely why it lasted for so long, and there was peace for a good while
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
until
And
people started getting stingy.
yeah, yeah. I kind of heard a comparison between the American, economy and the Chinese economy. And, the American economy, what they were saying is that, they give in to more of the 1%. You know what I mean? The 1% is what's leading our country. But in China, they kind of have it split off where 50% of what they do goes to the 1%, but the rest of it goes into the building communities and building, building up the people in society itself. I think they were
Yes,
saying the GDP of China has increased over the last 20 years by like 9%, when the United States has only increased by like 0.5. How China was really making some huge contributions to AI, and they were really making some changes to really get their economy to where they really wanted to be. But it was always about the citizens, even though it's a communist country, right?
yeah.
But yet again, obviously they must be doing something halfway good.
I mean, that's the trade off with the communist country. Like they are in absolute control,
Right, right.
and they know if they're a smart communist country, they know they need their population to survive,
True.
and so at the same time, yeah, I mean, I see how China they have more community, the more money is there. I don't really know enough to speak that much. I just know what I've heard.
Right.
And from what I hear is that in China, you're not as free. You're a little more controlled by the government. You don't have access to certain information because they also control the internet there.
You know, during that time, when Askia was running for his life, I shot the second. There was a change in the postures, if you will. So there was Mahmoud bin Zergan who took over Gerard Pasha's place. And so on page 117, I liked the first paragraph there. Highlights how the um, how the Moroccans changed their tactics, as we have spoken on, how they changed their military tactics. It wasn't just more out in the open. It reverted to they moved to the forest. They moved to the forest, and hence was a vigorous guerrilla warfare campaign, if you will. So they changed their tactics and really made an effective stance on the Europeans.
Oh
And
yes.
wasn't this the new leader? Wasn't this the new leader that
Yes,
came in and
yeah,
did that?
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Askia, nah.
Nah, that's scared. Nah,
Askia now.
sounds Egyptian. Sounds Egyptian.
Yes, yes, yes. They changed their tactics and really, really took it to him. Really, really took it to him. And so let's see. So you mentioned about the.
But they captured when they killed him, Askia.
Mhm,
They also installed during that time they installed a puppet and separated
Sure did.
Songhai into you know, and then
mhm.
That's
Songhai eventually they elected their own in the south, and then you had the one that was elected by Morocco.
right. Yes, that's a great point, bro. That's a great
That's
point.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Which
You know,
which
with
again is what is what we do to this day. I mean,
Yeah.
United States is big about taking somebody out and putting in their own puppet. They've done it in
yeah,
Haiti. I mean, trying to do it in Venezuela. They've done it in the Middle East for decades.
yes, that is
You're right.
a good point. That's a good point. We had mentioned on the sickness of the Europeans. So Askia employed similar tactics and inflicted a series of losses on the Moroccans. Malaria, dysentery, and the testy fly also killed
Hmm.
off men and horses, and the Moroccans were unable to advance further south.
Yep.
And that seems to always be a theme too. And well, depends on where you're at. diseases and things like that. These are ancient times, so they didn't have a lot of cures for those things.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people died because of those things,
But
especially in warfare when you didn't have with medics and things like that to come to your aid.
Well, that's why Askia Na did that, because he knew they didn't have the experience, and they had the experience. So he moved
Right.
into the jungle,
Right.
and that was kind of like the last stronghold of Songhai. That was the reason why they lasted so long, was because of that.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. Matter of fact, even in Europe around the 1800s, it was the African forests were considered the white man's grave due to the fact that they didn't go into the forest due to the tropical diseases as well. But if we also think about too, I try to kind of tie things into ancient times and modern times, which is not so modern, but when you think about these things that are tropical disease were more natural to Africa, right? But when you think about war and you think about chemical warfare, all right, or biological warfare, you think about Agent Orange, which was used in a time of war within the United States itself to other countries. So instead of having the natural ability to do something to create some type of disease as it did during ancient times, chemicals were created to bring some type of illness. Or even when you go back into dealing with the Indians, and Europeans, the Europeans were giving Indians smallpox blankets and killing off their people through smallpox through the blankets. So I mean, it's just, again, absolutely, it's just kind of funny again how things constantly repeat themselves in strategy when it comes to war.
Yeah, biological warfare was being used back then,
Yes, sir.
just in a different way.
In a different way. Yeah, in a different way.
He's moving on to page 118. 118. We see, as they continue, they were, as Chris had alluded to, there were many more battles between Saul for some time. What I took out of 118, so there, so when the first Judar Pasha started, let's read on that the third paragraph, just that last sentence. A confused state of affairs continued, and in the next 90 years, there were no fewer than 128 different pashas.
Yes.
That's
in 90.
A lot.
That means none of them even lasted a year.
Not even
No.
a year.
Not even a year.
No. Nope.
That must have been chaos.
I bet it was. Yeah, I bet it was.
Listen to it wasn't just that too. So I go to that second paragraph. Judar Pasha had murdered succeeding Moroccan commanders and had himself become sole ruler of the Moroccan army, only to be finally recalled in March 1599 to assist the Sultan at home. So what I'm getting at, so you got to be a leadership, but you also had to worry about being assassinated from other people who were jealous.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they also they stole their education and their scholars.
Yes.
Yeah, they did.
And they actually made him move from Timbuktu.
Right. Yep.
And that one of the most famous professors that they took was Professor Ahmed Baba.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah. At the bottom of that paragraph, I'll just continue off of Christopher. He says, Abba Baba, while he was a prisoner in Morocco, he's reported to have said, all of my friends in the Sudan, I was owned the smallest library, but I possessed 1,600 volumes. So compared to his other friends, he had the smallest library, but he had 1,600 volumes.
Pretty wild.
That is. I mean, that's probably, that's some information I love to read right there.
You got anything on that?
That is our last page of this chapter.
The only thing I will say about that is that last sentence.
I do agree.
Once more, Africa has swallowed up an invader, but at a terrible cost to herself one more time.
Yep.
I thought that was a powerful statement.
Yeah, many Moroccan soldiers remained in the West Africa rather than returning home. A lot of them married local women and had children. Other generations or descendants adopted local languages, customs, and many ways of life. I thought that was informative.
So once again, when they get there, they don't leave.
No, I wouldn't leave either. I wouldn't leave either. Be like, hey, it's party time.
Their way of life was awesome. It's, It seemed to be. I say, I'm not there for sure, but it seemed to be. It seemed to be okay.
I definitely like to go check it out. I don't know if I'd like to live there right now.
Yeah, I definitely would love to check it out. Would love to check it out. Okay, moving on to chapter 12. Prelude to West African Discoveries. Prelude to West African Discoveries. And so, it mentioned right up that first paragraph, and it speaks of the Dark Continent. And so I just looked that up just to give us a little bit of insight. So to understand the phrase Dark Continent, consider the following points. Originally referred to Africa, highlighting its unexplored regions during the 19th century, implies a lack of knowledge or understanding about the continent's cultures and geography. Used in a colonial context, reflecting European perceptions of Africa as mysterious and savage. Criticized for perpetuating stereotypes and ignoring Africa's rich history and civilizations. Today, the term is often viewed as outdated and offensive, emphasizing the need for a more nuanced understanding of Africa. So I've seen that a time or two, and so I just want to bring a little bit of insight to what when they say dark continent. What does that mean? I mean, I had an idea, but I just want to shed a little light on it.
They want to make people think like there wasn't much going on in Africa when there was.
Yeah, yeah. And again, it's just sad to this day that most people in the West still don't know. And this is our job right here to inform them and give them this knowledge. But yeah, most still don't know to this day.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, he talks about on these first 2 pages of the chapter, even the Phoenicians and all of them were sending sailboats down the west of Africa to check it out, and there was trading, resource gathering, and all that stuff's going on.
Yes.
So there's if there's trade going on, that means there has to be civilization going on,
Right?
Especially on a sailboat. I mean, to have a sailboat, you got to have technology, you got to have engineering,
right?
You got to have people to be able to work together, workshops and studies.
Yes.
So,
yes,
Africa was not dark.
No.
Very, very much alive.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, on 120, it gets into, as you were just mentioning, to the sea travels, if you will, for them getting on the sea and to see how far they can get into, Africa. And then you have Admiral Hanno of the Carthaginian. Let's give a little bit of insight. So, in the 5th century BCE, the Carthaginian explorer Hanno sailed beyond the Pillars of Hercules out of the Mediterranean and into hitherto unknown territory down the Atlantic coast of Africa. In his search to find new resources and trading opportunities, he encountered such exotic and unfamiliar sights as restless natives, swift-footed pygmies, gorillas, and eruptive volcanoes. The expedition became, even in antiquity, one of the most celebrated voyages of discovery ever undertaken. So, as we can see, they were, countries were starting to venture out, not just from the land, but onto the sea as well. And listen, I think it takes a lot of courage, to on land, but to get out onto the open sea and to not have, not some idea where you're going. I think that's pretty goddamn brave myself.
Yeah, and
go ahead. That's one thing I am jealous about the old times compared to now is they had exploration.
Yes, they did. Yes, they
and people did. like we don't have that anymore today.
Right. Yes.
People's been everywhere.
They've been studying astronomy and the stars. I mean, going back to the beginning of Egypt. I mean, so it was prevalent back then, as far as the ability to move around.
That's right.
All right.
So, so you have, so after Admiral Hanno, you had, let's see here, there were several that were taken on. You had, that was the first one. So then you had Euthymenes, 400.
Euthymenes.
Euthymenes, however you say his name.
Polybius.
Yeah, Polybius. Yes. These were major voyages that were taken around Africa. Now, after those gentlemen, there wasn't another one until 15.
And those were Greek. Those were Greek navigators.
Yes, absolutely.
Mediterranean.
That is correct.
So just people have a time frame, like, thousands of years ago, there was trading and stuff going on here in Africa.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. And then we're moving on with the last down there. The next one after that is his name is Jean de Rouen, who's a Frenchman.
Mm-hmm.
He also, after that, took on to the voyages around West Africa. I'm on page 122, Kings, 122. And so now there was some dispute, about that between the British and the French, because the French claimed that they had been there first before the British. And
Of
the
course it
British
did.
says, no, that we were there first before that. Now, let's see here. That second paragraph, many British historians are not prepared to accept the French account. The official historian of the Colonial Office does not even refer to the French claim to have been the first Europeans in comparatively modern times to explore the coast of West Africa. The historian of the Gold Coast government dismisses the French claim in these words. The European pioneers of the Gold Coast were the Portuguese, unless the flimsy evidence of the French landing a century earlier is accepted. The Portuguese first reached the coast in 1471 and in 1482 began to form settlements where they remained for the next 1600 years. So there is that dispute. However, there was get a little bit further down. There's a canon at the Elmina Castle that is different from the others, and from my understanding, that's the only piece of or discrepancy, if you will, to dispute. The British between the British and the French.
Right.
Or I mean the Portuguese and the French.
Yeah. There you go. Portuguese and the French. Yes.
I mean, I think we definitely know the Portuguese was there because they built the castle.
Sure.
But I mean, I believe that the French were probably there. They just didn't build any strongholds. I mean, putting up a wood house and having a small village, having a little settlement. Why not? If they knew that there was a lot of wealth down there. I mean, that's the only reason why the Portuguese was coming there. Yeah. And we know the French likes their fancy stuff.
Yeah. And
so
right. And I think that holds a valid point too, even when you start thinking about, when they started thinking about going back to the beginning of the chapter being the dark continent, other countries wanted to come to Africa. Why though? If it had nothing, if it had no resources, if it had no civilization and no ancient kingdoms, then what's the point? And I get the concept of land, but it had much more than just land. I mean, the land was rich and the people were rich. When you think about here where it says on page 123, I know I'm kind of going a little further, but since Mansa Musa dazzled the world with the West African gold from Africa that became fascination. I mean, goodness gracious, with ivory. I mean, with the salt mines, you just couldn't go wrong. But again, other countries weren't there just for the fixation of just the people. It was the resources.
But we have the Portuguese really wanted to move down there because they believed in the there was a historical king it was Apostle John running right. a kingdom and followers down there. When I read that, I mean, I kind of think that the church was using that as an excuse to go get the gold, saying we're doing this is religious.
Yes.
We're doing it for our beliefs,
right,
to get people to come and be part of it and build that castle.
Yes.
But I think they were using that as an excuse to get the wealth.
I do agree. We know that church.
Because those monasteries, man, they really like their fancy gold and silver and all.
Yes, we are really getting some great insight into religion and the church as well. And so that's one thing that I'm really falling in love with the reading. So yeah, we picked the origins of Africa, but it's so involved. It opens up into everything. You don't think about religion. What does religion have to do with Africa? But it has everything to do with Africa. And
almost all the religions are from there.
Yes. And we're learning about that to what King Mac just said about the resources, and it's I enjoy it quite a bit. But it opens up levels into things that was not even thinking about, if you will.
Yes.
And so on page 123, we keep on going. Gets down. It talks about General Tariq, and as King mentioned about Mansa Musa, and the last paragraph there, goes into what I took out of that, the persecution of the Christians again, and what they could and could not do, and how they absolutely could not, propagate, the Christian religion. That was not accepted at all.
But this one gets into one of the biggest reasons why the Europeans were traveling down the West Coast in sailboats. It was because the Ottoman Empire and the Islam Empire, they didn't really want to go through Morocco and the Islam Empire that had the Red Sea to get down to the wealth. And so instead of traveling south, on the east side of West Africa, they sailed around the west side.
They did.
Because they were afraid of getting attacked and wouldn't be able to get through that territory.
Right.
1.4, he goes into the same thing with the Christians and what they could and they could not do. Let's see. You can't get anything. You can't get anything out of 124.
124.
I don't have anything highlighted in 124.
Well, I'll just highlight that that second to last paragraph, which speaks of Saint Francis of Assisi.
Yes.
Excuse me, and his pilgrimage to not pilgrimage, but his visit to Africa, to Egypt, and so they talk about during the Fourth Crusade. So at this time too, the Crusades were going on, the religious Crusades, and so the Fourth Crusade was had to do with the Byzantine Empire and the sack of Constantinople. This was from 1202 to 1204. That's one to highlight because at the same time, the Crusades were going on, and those Crusader wars were powerful. There were many of them at that time.
Yes, they were.
Many of them at that time. Initiated by the Pope, if you will. For the fight of Jerusalem. For the fight of Jerusalem. So,
and we got someone in the comments real quick I want to mention.
Go ahead.
Before we move on. He's asking, do you think if Christianity wasn't such a strong religion that it would have changed the outcome of Africa or origins? Yes, I believe if Christianity didn't become a strong religion, that would have completely changed the outcome of Africa and the outcome of America, the world.
Yes. But it was forced. Again, it was forced. You see what I'm saying? It wasn't like it was pleasantly given and willingly accepted. It was
just like Islam. They both were.
Yeah, they were. They both were. Absolutely.
And that highlights, what.
I just think the Islams had a little more loyalty than the Christians did. I feel like the ancient Christians were more focused on power and money. They were more greedy. While the Islams, they were still about conquering and power, but they were a lot more loyal to their religion than the Christians were.
You see that for sure. And so that highlights too, as I just mentioned, St. Francis, I say, going there and to force, if you will, the Christianity, and then you move on to page 125 of the five friars, Petrio, Ortho, Ajutus, Accurso, and Bernard. They died, committed suicide, if you will. That statement, the thirst for martyrdom becomes the madness of suicide. So they were willing to die for that, in order to get people to convert. They were, as you said, they were fighting Islam at that time. And so that next paragraph, Raymond Lowe, I thought his story was fascinating. Fascinating. I'm gonna read that middle paragraph right there.
Okay.
More friars continued to pour into North Africa, where the Dominican order had been firmly established in 1234, only 12 years after the death of its founder. But perhaps the most commanding figure among the North African missionaries was Raymond Lull. His first mission to Africa began in 1292 when he was 60 years of age. At Tanzania, his sermons led to his imprisonment, trial, and deportation. In 1307, he appeared again in North Africa, being 75 when he landed at Bugia. In spite of his previous experience, Raymond Lull began his first sermon with the words, "The law of the Christians is holy and true, and the sect of the Moors is false and wrong, and I am prepared to prove." The populace was ready to dismember him, but the authorities placed him under protective arrest, and after 6 months he was again deported. The old man stayed away from Africa for 7 years, and then in 1314, at the age of 82, he decided to undertake a third missionary journey to Africa, no doubt to court the red rose of martyrdom. He visited both Bugia and Tanzania and is said to have gained many converts. He met his end at Bugia, where he was stoned to death. So it just gives you, I mean, that's just wow.
Persistent. Dude was persistent.
Persistent.
I mean, he was a very loyal Christian person.
Yes. Yes. I thought it was a fascinating story.
Yeah.
Fascinating story. And as you spoke on that last paragraph, King Chris, Prester John, who some thought was the Apostle John.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a great story to tell people to get them to believe in a something.
Right.
But they did, and they were really. I mean, there was a hectic search to find him, or to find his kingdom, if you will.
Yeah.
But you know,
one of
we've
prime
also
reasons the Europeans were going there.
Yes.
Yeah, and we've always learned, dude, even through war, it was easier for, you know, certain religions to pop up due to the vulnerability of the citizens and the people. You know, you needed something to believe in, you know, which allowed open doors for Christianity and different religions to step into, you know. So and my thought, you know, you wonder how people just convert or just make these changes. And it makes sense when there's chaos going on. You need something to believe in or to believe in the chaos itself.
Yes.
Well, listen, your life is threatened, you should do what you can and cannot do. Then it becomes a matter of survival. So then, what are you really going to do? What are you really
and the church, and the church still plays that card today. It's all about heaven or hell. Either listen to this and do this, or you're going to be damned for eternity.
Yeah.
And they're still using that control and to create what? Wealth. And that's what the churches do.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay, Kings, moving on to page 126. What I got out of that is Prince Henry the Navigator. Is what I got out of him. And so, Prince Henry the Navigator, let's see here. What did I get on him? He established a school for navigation in Sagres, Portugal, promoted maritime education, sponsored numerous voyages on the African coast to help uncharted territories, advanced the development of new navigational tools such as the astrolabe and the caravel, played a crucial role in the early stages of the Atlantic slave trade, encouraged the exploration of trade routes in India and Spice Islands, laid the groundwork for Portugal's maritime empire age of discovery. And so this next chapter here, did anybody else get anything on page 126?
No, you're right.
Oh, you got it, brother.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, so chapter 13, I think this is a very interesting chapter. The Portuguese in West Africa. And so right off the bat, you know, it speaks again of Prester John and Prince Henry the Navigator. So that third paragraph, I'm going to read that.
Yes, sir. The
records show that Henry's captains, Antonio Gonçalves and Nuno Tristan, called at Rio de Oro in 1441 and brought back with them to Portugal some gold and 10 Africans who Prince Henry handed over as slave gifts to the Pope, who there and then conferred on Portugal the right of possession and sovereignty over all lands to be discovered to the east of Cape Blanco. So that passage right there, I believe it was Pope Martin, if you will.
It was actually, so I wanted to, that's one thing in the book that I saw that the author got wrong.
He did not.
So Pope Martin V, he actually died in 1431.
Yes.
But Pope Nicholas V was the one that received those gifts and the 10 enslaved. But the book is saying that Pope Martin is the one that received it, but he couldn't have because the exploration didn't happen until 1441 when they brought back those 10 slaves. Because Pope Martin V died in 1431.
10 years prior, huh?
I mean, it still happened. They still did the exploration. They came back. It was just under a different pope. It was Pope Nicholas V is the one that received the gold dust.
King. Yeah, I stand corrected. You're right. You're right. He did. You did. And you said Pope Nicholas. And so Pope Nicholas, he wrote it's called the Romanus Pontifex. And it's the document that in 1455, I encourage you gentlemen I'll send it to you, to read.
Please.
And it's fascinating. fascinated on the context of how someone can just write something up and it be law to be
Right.
followed to say slavery is okay, but that's when it started. I was seeing you guys as the Romanist Pontifex.
That's when it started, man.
Yes,
Yeah. And
interesting,
that's
interesting.
yeah. And that's
Go
how
ahead,
they
King.
got a lot. That's how they got a
Yeah.
lot of, indigenous people is using paper, using some form of
Mm-hmm.
writing. You know what I mean? Even when they came over here dealing with the Indians, they would state that on paper, we own this land. Even though you've been here for thousands of years and settled here, but on paper, we own this land. So creating a
Sounds
whole
like the Portuguese was out for people, man.
yeah.
Because this was the Portuguese that started the slave trade, the Christian Spanish people, and they were also the ones that took over Mexico.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Spread it. It was all because of Christianity doing the same thing,
Which was
using them.
Isabel and Fernando, right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Ferdinand. Yeah.
So, yeah, and it was all for the wealth and all of those things. But you're right. The comparison you made for the Indians. So it's like laws were created because they were already here.
Mm-hmm.
So the laws were created to justify them taking
Right.
what they wanted. It
Absolutely.
wasn't for anything. So it really puts into context what is the reasoning behind the laws. We're not going to get into it, but when you speak of governance, these things were just written just so they could say, well, this is what it is, and so this is law. But it really wasn't. And so
It
the
wasn't.
same thing with the Pope and the Roman Pontifex, that was just something he wrote on a piece of
Mm-hmm.
paper. He wrote on a piece of
Mm-hmm.
paper to give
Yes.
them permission to
Yes.
go and enslave these people.
Yes.
And I think on the next page or two, it talks about how they captured him. Like, they were chasing out with horses and
Yes.
capture him.
Mm-hmm.
You think about that, like, what type of human do you have to be to chase down another human on horseback and like you're ringing up cattle?
Right.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
for one, I can't make myself think like that. I don't know how a person like would do that. Like, I just
Yes.
I can't understand grasp that.
Yes. And just on page 127, the last paragraph there. So this I thought was profound too. The Portuguese found a new name for the indigenous African religion. They called it fetish. That's where fetish came from.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, if you think about fetish today, it's like when you got a food fetish, when you got this type of fetish. It came from because they're of the symbols and the things that they use in their religions. That's how it came. The word fetish came to be.
Right.
I thought that was very interesting because now it takes on so many different definitions when you say fetish, not knowing that they just gave it to them as to because they believed in something different.
But to me again, I've always tried to tie it into modern times. When we think about, like Christian just mentioned, chasing people down on horseback and capturing them like cattle, it's no different than today. When these corporations, design these foods and chemicals and these, anything, there's no thought about the people and the children. There's no thought. It's all about money and greed. And you got guys we don't have just one Mansa Musa these days. We have many these days, that run the country at the same time. But there's no thought about us and our health and our well-being and our future.
You're right.
I mean, it's just constant. It's about greed, and it's about standing on that and having what they want, versus what we need.
Somebody always wants more.
Always wants more. Yeah.
It seems like rulers like Mansa Musa are far and few and in between because he just didn't have the power. He shared it with everyone.
Right.
And that seems to be a rare quality of what we are reading.
Yeah, it's not too often when an empire attacks another empire or kingdom, destroys it, and then stops.
Right.
This is true.
Right.
This is true. So on page 128, goes on to the gold mines of Alamina, and the story of the Alamina Beach, the chief of Alamina, Chief Kwame, and you had the Diego de Ambrosia, who was a knight of the royal household. So there was so the Portuguese would come, they do their business and then they would leave. They would come and do their business and they would leave. However, they were wanting more. They were wanting more. And Chief Kwame, reading his account on page 129, I get the impression that he had a sense that they were
Yeah.
wanting more. He was getting the feeling that this was not going to go right, and he could foresee that. For you not to make it permanent resident, it's best that you come do your business and you move on.
And that's he even told him, like, you can still come here. You can still collect resources. Yes. You can still trade. Yes. He's like, just don't set up a settlement because that will change our relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so they lavished him with gifts, but it was the threats. The threats that finally made him give in, which is unfortunate. Gets to think about his people and whatnot, and he can notice the way they were changing and the dress, and so they were wanting more. And you're right too about when, just to go back take a step back, when Prince Henry the Navigator got the okay, he really loaded up with the horses and the people and his soldiers and ammunition, and came back. And you're right, unloaded those things and just were hunting these people down, and that is it's
sad.
It's sad, man.
Yeah.
It really is sad. So getting on page to 130. Ken's got anything out of 130?
Portuguese quickly completed Elmina Castle and began turning Elmina into a permanent Portuguese-controlled base.
Yep.
I thought it was kind of crazy how fast they were able to build such a castle, and it's still here today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Well, listen, when he loaded up that ship, he brought everything that he needed. He brought everything that he was going to need to build that thing. So either way, whether he gave his okay or not, they were going to build that fort. It's the impression I get. And so when he did give in, they wasted no time because they didn't want him to change his mind. They put that thing up fast.
Right.
Well, they wanted to spread Christianity.
That too as well.
And the reason I think they wanted to spread Christianity is because through Christianity, they could have more power.
Yes.
They could have more control.
Yep.
It wasn't about saving souls.
No. Never has been. Never has been.
There were two kingdoms, two tribes that pushed back on that, and that was the Festus, and the Comendias, who did not want any of that. They were upset that the Laminas had given in and let them to do that. And to what you were talking about, it was about Christianity. So to solidify their position there, they encouraged intermarriage.
Yes,
they could definitely get a stronghold on the situation. And going on to page 132, so yes, the Portuguese, they did flatter both the Comendias and the Festas, and they knew that the tribe leaders knew that, and so eventually they'd had enough, and so in 1570 they no longer took the bribes and the presents from the Portuguese, and so page 133 and 132. You can't get anything else out of those?
133, the author talks about the Portuguese missionary efforts and then asks why the Portuguese era in Christianity in West Africa faded. Alfonso de Balani and Alfonso de Bolanos, missionaries connected with the papal plans for Guinea and the Canary Islands. So basically, the Portuguese supported missionary activity extended beyond the Gold Coast into Sierra Leone, Benin, and then eventually into the Congo. And that's kind of like the end of the chapter.
Yeah. It just really stands out to me, like the strategies of war. You know what I mean? And just how they do not change. And it seems like that if you really start to study the strategies from different ancient times to modern times, you might be able to figure things out a little more clearly. There's a professor that uses gaming strategy to determine to discuss how war occurs, or just discuss how things could happen. And it is based upon ancient to modern strategy that he uses to understand what goes on. Like he brought up how Trump would get a second term. He brought up how Trump would go to war. His what he's stating now is that Trump would, the United States would go to war with Iran and that they will lose. But he uses that, that key points of ancient strategy to determine what goes on now in modern times.
You're right, man. And not a second term, third term.
Yeah. Well, did he say okay? Okay. Well,
Yeah. Trump
he's
has mentioned
saying
third
that
term many times.
yeah, he has. But the professor himself, before Trump had a second term, had determined that Trump would win a second term, and he did say that you're right, Christopher. He did state also that Trump would get a third term due to the war powers, that were there.
Yes.
So yeah.
And I think that's why he's stretching this out.
I do agree.
And so that last year before the election, like I said, I think the last election was the last election. We'll see.
I do agree.
But I mean, I don't know what's going to come the next year and a half.
There's 2 years to stretch that out. So it's troubled times, to say the least. Mm-hmm. Troubled times, to say the least. Just to think that if he does get a third term, I'm just speaking in terms of the laws that are written, how is that going to sit?
Well,
that means we would stay in a state of war for the next 2 years.
It could be civil war, and then if civil war is applied, then from what I understand, I've heard through strategy that the government would release militia groups.
Absolutely.
Against the civil war itself. So,
and where are you hearing this from?
Little birdie.
I got you.
I'll send it to you. I just you know how it is. You just kind of go with things. You start reading certain things, looking things up. So, somebody stated that, and I started looking it up, and not saying that it's factual. You know what I mean? Right. But I mean, it does make sense. I mean, this happened before. Again, this is not nothing new. You know what I mean? You think about it in the 1960s when you had the KKK. They basically ran amok in the United States. Dealing with the South. Yep. And so they kept other militias or rebellions, African-American rebellions in line in a sense, so it's not nothing new. It's not nothing new.
And the KKK was a Christian-based organization.
Absolutely Christian-based. Burnt the cross in your front yard.
In your front yard.
In your front yard.
That was great. Listen, that was great information. I love doing this. Love doing this. No matter what.
Yes.
I love this game. I love having you guys on here, and we all get together and bring this knowledge to everyone. King, you got that spotlight?
Yes. Spotlight for today of Brother Many Words is, give me one moment. Let me pull it up here. All right. So our spotlight today is George Steiny Jr. was a 14-year-old African-American boy from Alcoa who was convicted and executed in 1914 for the murders of 2 white girls. He remains the youngest person executed in the United States in the 20th century. What happened? In March 1944, 2 girls, 11-year-old Betty June and her sister, 7-year-old Mary Elm, were found dead. George Stanley was arrested after being questioned by authorities. Police claimed that he confessed, but there was no written confession signed by George and no record of any confession. He was questioned without a parent or attorney present. The trial lasted only a few hours. An all-white jury deliberated for about 10 minutes before finding him guilty. His court-appointed attorney presented little defense evidence, and George was sentenced to death. George Steiny was executed in an electric chair on June 16, 1944. He was only 14 years old and weighed about 95 pounds. For decades, many people questioned whether he had received a fair trial. In 2014, a judge of South Carolina set aside his conviction, finding that fundamental constitutional rights had been violated and that the trial had been profoundly unfair. Why this case is significant? This case is often cited as an example of racial injustice in Jim Crow South, lack of due process, dangers of coercing confessions, and inadequate legal representation. George Steiny Jr. was 14 years old, black boy executed in 1944 after a rush trial for the murder of 2 young girls. 70 years later, a court overturned his conviction because of the serious violations of the rights to a fair trial. So I came across that on social media, and I just feel like that I just had to present that. I didn't even know, and being in 14 years old, they actually had a picture of a little boy with the execution hat on, if you would say, and just crying. So it's just, when we talk about racial injustice in the United States, man, I don't think people understand how deep that really goes. You know, we just see the surface on it, but we really don't. We're not educated on really the brutality of the nature, and so I just want to bring that to light.
Appreciate that.
Me too.
And you know, you reading that, and I don't know if this has anything to do with one or the other, but the movie The Green Mile instantly came into my mind.
Yes.
That theme and that narrative is almost identical. No, I know it's different people,
right?
But the storyline is it's pretty goddamn close, and that's a great movie.
And it's many storylines just like that.
Yes.
Like even when you think about Rosewood in Oklahoma, where there was a prominent black community who had they had airports and hotels and restaurants and all these, you know, this economically based community. And it was literally burnt down in 24 hours due to pretty much the same narrative. A young man, black boy, was accused of touching a young white lady in an elevator, and chaos broke loose. And Rosewood is only one example of so many, you know, things that went on just like that in multiple states. But Rosewood is only one that we tend to, you know, be highlight. At, you know, highlighted. Yeah.
Kings, that great spotlight, great podcast, gentlemen. Great podcast. We gonna get out of here. Does anybody have anything they want to say in closing remarks?
Love you, Kings. Appreciate it.
Love you guys.
Great podcast. Love you guys as well. Thank you for joining us for Sunday Book Club. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this with someone who values meaningful conversation.
Yes.
And join us next Sunday as we continue building through wisdom, experience, and purpose. King Christopher, take us on out here, King.
As always, our 3 core beliefs: faith, trust in your own power, believe deeply in your purpose, build unshakable confidence through action, and dedication. Show up when no one's watching. Stand firm in your commitment to grow. Put in the reps mentally, physically, and daily. And lastly, discipline. Forge your character through consistency. Set your code and follow it without compromise. Control your impulses. Command your results. Get after it. Love you guys.
Love you.